Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, June 28th, the 179th day of the year. There are 185 days left in 2022, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom, brought to you by the Best Girl consulting firm. You can't go home again is a saying I've heard many times over the years. The saying is taken from a novel by Thomas Wolfe, published posthumously in 1940. You can't go home again. What does that mean? Well, according to Wikipedia, it means that if you try to return to a place you remember from the past, it won't be the same as you remember it. That saying fits our G-list guests today and many of their fraternity brothers. Several shows ago, we mentioned several charter members of the Sigma Delta chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Inc. on the campus of Auburn University had returned to Auburn University, where they were the first Black Greek organization on a predominantly white institution in the state of Alabama. Of the original 13, maybe 14, these guys will correct me when they come on, but with the exception of two members who have passed on, everyone returned, many for the first time in more than 50 years since they had entered the university. So our G-list guests for today of those original members are George Smith and Vernell Barnes. We look forward to the conversation. This edition of Tuesdays with Thom, of course, is sponsored by our partners, the Best Girl consulting firm. Best Girl has been providing customized solutions to executive issues for 34 years. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
It's the solution that fits your needs. So let's get to our roundtable regulars and introduce Barbara Wallace-Edwards and Michael Walker, both of whom are in different locations today. So let's, Michael Walker, where are you?
Good morning, Thom. I am in the Lone Star State, Austin, Texas.
Watch out. Watch out in Texas.
That's right. And there's a lot of buzz around town because, Austin is the home of the Texas Longhorns, and they signed Archie Manning this week. So they're all hyped up.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. Let's see. Whose son is that? Is that Eli's son?
No, that's Cooper. That's the one that didn't make it to the pros.
Okay.
He was the wide receiver, and I think he had a neck injury or something.
Yeah,
and
he got hurt.
Got
hurt. I remember that. Yeah. Okay, sounds good. So we got our choice this morning. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hold off on one thing till Barbara gets on here. But Andrew Gillum, we'll start with him. Andrew Gillum is back in the news. Andrew Gillum, of course, was the mayor of Tallahassee, ran for the governorship of Florida, came within, I think, 30,000 votes of winning, beating Ron DeSantis. And since then, he seems to have run into some trouble.
Yes, unfortunately.
A couple of things. One, I don't know, what were they in a hotel room? He and a couple of guys, and they were drunk and whatever. And I think it was no secret that he's gay. And so that wasn't the issue. I think the issue was they were pretty drunk and there was drugs and all kinds of stuff going on. So we got Andrew Gillum and we got Herschel. Of course, we got to always come back to our good buddy Herschel. And so you got any comments on either one, Michael?
Well, first of all, I'm very disappointed that Andrew Gillum has found himself in issues again. This time it's possible federal election law and campaign violations with funding, and that's a serious matter. The first incident pretty much sealed any chances he had of making a comeback politically, and this right here, just as they say, the proverbial nail in the coffin. This has done it. He could go up on charges, so I really hate that. On the Herschel side of it, it's unfortunate that Herschel had been out talking about absentee fathers, especially in the Black community, and saying things about how he's been a fatherless children. And then it comes out that he has 3 additional kids that he may not have been in their lives. And shortly after that, his son, the one that he talks about, went on TikTok and did a viral video. And supposedly, I'm told he was talking about Nick Cannon, telling Nick Cannon to go home. He would be doing that with his own father who's running for U.S. Senate.
Okay, we're having some technical difficulty there. Michael, I think you've frozen up on us. Let's bring Barbara on and we'll get you both on.
Okay.
That's that coming in from Texas. Where is Barbara?
Good morning, Thom.
Good morning. You're not frozen, huh?
So I don't think so. At least not yet. Thank God.
And where are you?
I'm actually in Columbus, Ohio, Thom, visiting my Aunt Roberta and my cousin Sean.
The Ohio State University.
Ohio State. And he's a graduate of the Ohio State, and he and another cousin make sure I pronounce it that the Ohio State University.
They trademarked the.
They did. They did. So yes.
You and you got any comments on Andrew Gillum? Let me just say I was very disappointed as well. I thought the guy had a great chance. He spoke here when he was running, and I mean, it was so crowded. There were people everywhere. There were cars all up and down the street.
Yes, it is totally disappointing because I think he really did have a future, a really great a chance for a great future in politics there in the state of Florida. And you talked about him being gay. I mean, the man was actually married and had children. So so he was living this secret life out there, and
but I think his wife knew. His wife knew he was bisexual.
That's true.
I guess that makes it okay. If it's okay with them, it's okay with me.
It's their business. It's their business. But again, when you're in politics, your life is you're under a microscope. So those type of things are not always accepted, and it's just disappointing to see how much trouble he's actually gotten himself into.
Well, this one, I mean, they'll have to. He I don't know how many counts it is, but they've indicted him, and I guess they'll have to prove that he did something. So it's a money crime, and those are kind of hard to prove sometimes.
That's true.
So we'll just have to see. Too bad. Yes. Let me ask you guys about the hot topic, abortion, and just get your, everybody's can have an opinion. That's the great thing about the country. We don't have to all agree.
Right.
So which one of you guys want to jump in first?
I'll jump in, Thom, and I'll say I've always been a proponent of pro-choice. I think people should have the right to make their own choice about those type of situations. And I really hate that the Supreme Court has made their ruling, because a lot of states have already banned abortions in their states, and so women are not going to be seeking either going out of state to have it done if they need it, or having some type of illegal procedure done, and that can be very risky for their health as well as the health of the baby. So I wish that we would be more open to allowing people to make their own decisions about what they want to do. They want pro-choice when it comes to guns, but not pro-choice when it comes to rights regarding the birth of a child.
That's interesting. Michael?
Yes, can you guys hear me good now?
We can hear you, but you're frozen, but we can hear you good.
Okay. There's another part to this bill in the way that it was written that may cause some issues for in vitro fertilization, people that are having difficulty having children. And what I understand is that some of the language in this may disallow people from being able to do that in order to get pregnant. And supposedly it will affect African-American women. They have some difficulty in being able to have in vitro fertilization because of the cost, lack of insurance. So on one hand, they're saying you can't do any abortion, but the way the bill is written, it's going to affect people of a certain socioeconomic area from getting pregnant. So it's both sides of it, but I have to say that I agree with Barbara. I think, and especially me being a male, far be it from me to tell a woman what to do with her body.
Right.
Well, and I agree with the both of you, and I agree with that in particular. I've just never figured that it was my business,
right,
to tell somebody else what to do. And I think, when you want to wrap your faith around it, well, that's your faith, and that's what you believe. But my faith doesn't take me down that road.
Right.
So I don't know. We find so many things today to be divided over. And it's like, if it's not a divisive issue, it's not a popular issue. If it's divisive, let's put it out there and throw it out there and raise a lot of hell. And it's just not where I would like to see the country go. But then again, I don't think they're listening to me. So
they're not listening to any of us, I don't think.
Well, one other issue, and it's kind of another subject as you talk about things that's going on, is Brittany Griner. She had a hearing yesterday in Russia, and her detention has been extended 6 additional months. Now,
say that again. What is extended?
Her detention.
Okay.
Has been extended for 6 months additionally.
Wow. I didn't hear that, Michael. So what was the reason for extending it?
There was no reason. She's supposed to begin trial on July the 2nd. And, she could face up to 10 years. But the backstory, or as Paul Harvey used to say, the rest of the story is that it's believed Russia is trying to use her to trade prisoners with the U.S.
Yes, I did hear that.
With this guy, Victor Bout, who is the merchant of death, an arms dealer who's serving 25 years in U.S. for conspiracy to kill American citizens.
Wow.
I thought it was interesting when I saw the little film clip yesterday when they were bringing her out. God almighty, she's tall, man. She was tall, much taller than everybody else.
Yes.
But they had her chained.
Yes.
Like she's an armed criminal.
She was in leg shackles or whatever. And I just thought that was a little bit excessive. It was a little bit much. I don't know. It's just interesting. I think she's got caught. I don't know. What was she supposedly had some drugs, some marijuana or something to that effect?
It wasn't even marijuana. It was like the residue or something, Michael.
She had some vape cartridges, the oil and stuff like that. Just the little cartridges that people smoke in the vape pans. That's what she had.
Okay, so that's not serious, is it?
No.
But it's all a political thing, Thom. So
well, that's what they say.
And they're
Go
trying
ahead.
to say that she had intent to distribute, but she only had one or two. It was for personal use. Okay.
Absolutely.
That's a shame. Can I ask you guys? Did you guys last night? And I've seen it once before. There was a great documentary on women's basketball and the founding of the WNBA, and before that, the Women's Basketball League, and so on. So, and it was really, if you get a chance to see it, it's really good. What they put these women through because they were going to be the face. They were
Right.
introduced women's basketball to the country,
Right.
and they had to try and sell it to people. It was really good. I don't know if you guys remember, Auburn had a great basketball team with Ruthie Bolden and those
Yes.
ladies back in the day. But they
Yes.
played Louisiana Tech with Venus Lacey, I think was her name.
Yeah.
And man, she was something. She whooped our tails. But later on, she was in a bad car accident and she lost her memory.
Oh, wow.
And so they had a reunion of that team. And she doesn't, and she was one of the best players on the team,
right.
but she doesn't remember any of that.
Oh, wow. That's sad.
Yeah, it is. It is sad. And but they're still close. They're still united. And, I played sports for a long time, and I thought about this last night when I was watching it, that how hard it is to win a championship.
Yes.
And how many of us play many years and never. Well, I guess we came close. I was going to say never come close to a championship, but
you did come close.
We didn't. You didn't get there, and it's a heck of a thing to leave it on the table. You don't get do-overs.
Right.
So I got a couple of other things for you guys. What's this kid's name? Jaden. Somebody who. What did he do? Jaden accepted.
Rashada.
And he got a $9.5 million name, image, and likeness deal.
Oh, yes.
With the Miami Hurricanes and their booster, John Ruiz.
Mm-hmm.
Turned down $11 million from the Florida Gators. Man, I came a long way too early, I think.
Yes, you did, Thom. Yes, you did. These young guys come out of high school millionaires. It's amazing.
Well, and even the NBA, I mean, they're talking about where he's going to opt out of this. It's only going to pay him $37 million. Man, I don't know about y'all, but I could live the rest of my life on $37 million.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting. You guys got other stuff you want to talk about?
Well, Thom, we're talking about sports. I wanted to congratulate all of the college basketball players who were selected in the NBA draft on last week. And of course, we had Jabari Smith out of Auburn, who was selected number 3, and Walker Kessler was selected number 22 in the first round of the NBA draft. So congratulations to all those young men.
I got a question for you guys. So it was all along thought that the kid from Auburn would go number 1. What happened there? Did they ever say?
I didn't hear what happened. I don't know. Michael?
I don't know for sure, but I think it probably had a little bit to do with his size. I heard that people say that Pablo was more NBA ready. He's about 6'10", but he weighs about 240, 250. Mm-hmm. And Jabari only weighs 220, and he's more of a finesse player. And they feel like he probably wasn't ready. Just in comparison, I'm 6'1" and I'm 225. So he's 6'10" and only weighs 220. That's going to be a little bit difficult in the NBA. And he was slipping a little bit for that. And Thom, not to throw shade, but we talk about this all the time. We talk about the talent in the NBA and what have you. And I look at Draymond Green's jump shot. Draymond Green of the Warriors. I'm surprised when it goes in. When you look at the shot.
Wait a minute. That last game, he hit three. He hit three
Yes,
shots.
he did.
I think he hit a couple of threes or whatever. And it's like, I couldn't believe it because the first 2 or 3, he couldn't buy a shot. I mean, it's an ugly shot anyway.
That's what I'm saying. I told somebody, I say, you know what? Right now, I can go out there and beat Draymond Green in a game of horse at my age. Right now.
But he hung in there, because when he made that first shot, you know how you do when he made that first. I said, "Oh no, Draymond," because I was for Golden State. I said, "Oh no, don't shoot." But he made it. It's like,
Jermon said you guys are being haters. He knows what he's doing.
No, we're not haters. But you know what, Tom? You know this. When you shoot the ball and you see somebody shoot it that has the right form and technique, you can say that's good even before it go in. Because remember, sometimes you shoot the ball and you say that's good. Okay, when Draymond shoot the ball, you say that's not good. That's not good.
Yeah, you sitting there cringing and go, "Oh no, why did he take that shot?"
That's one of those when you run down the court and he beats you down and you go, whoa. Yeah, I got it. Let me. I give it back to you, knowing you ain't gonna give it back to him. So, I got couple more things here. The World Games are in Birmingham. Yes, Barbara, you going to cover the World Games for us?
Yes, sir, I am. I'm actually volunteering. I'm going to be a volunteer driver for the VIP. So I'll get some firsthand experience and hopefully some great interviews and photos. And so, yeah, I'll be there.
Okay. I was speaking of the women's basketball, and the climax of the documentary was the 1996 Olympics, and when they played in the Olympics and they won, which was, the coach Tara Vandiver from Stanford was driving them so hard.
Yes.
And they ended up winning. So is the World Games, they got basketball?
They do have basketball.
Okay. I mean, what level are these guys on? These college?
That part I don't know, Tom, but they do have basketball games included.
Okay. Michael, you know anything about the World Games?
No, I do not. I haven't been keeping up with it, so I have to rely on Barbara's intel on that one.
Okay, I got and Juneteenth. Barbara, you got any updates for us for Juneteenth?
Other than, people are really upset about the commercialization of the holiday, and but I didn't get out and I didn't buy anything special for Juneteenth, but I celebrated watching activities online and on TV and the celebration. So I certainly enjoyed my Juneteenth.
Okay, good deal. Michael, you got anything new? Anything else for us?
No, that's about it, Tom. It's interesting though, being here in Austin, Texas. I got to tell you, with different things going on, the city reminds me a lot of Nashville. It has, some similarities to Nashville, but we still have crazy stuff going on around here. I got up and looked at the news this morning, and SWAT was called out to a domestic situation that started at 10 o'clock last night. But it's ironic that the guy got into an altercation, domestic violence, had a gun or something. One guy got away, SWAT gets there, and it lasts till 5 o'clock this morning, and he's taken without incident.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
So you remember the song? You remember the song by The Temptation, A Ball of Confusion?
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
We're in a ball of confusion right now.
Yeah. And we know who generally gets taken without incident.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Barbara.
I was going to say, Michael, you're there in Texas. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Arch Manning signed with Texas, and there's a lot of talk about that too. And I'm so glad he finally signed. I was so tired of hearing about that in the news and not knowing where Arch Manning was going to go. And
did he get an NIL as well?
Ironically, they haven't mentioned that.
They haven't talked about it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he probably did.
Yeah.
But that's one thing that's been kept very quiet.
Well, he was going to get one either way.
Right.
So whether it was an NIL or under the table.
Right.
Right. But speaking of which, one of my colleagues here told me, he's an Ohio State fan. He told me that C.J. Stroud, the quarterback for Ohio State, has a Rolls Royce, that somebody gave him $150,000 or something to get a Rolls Royce. And so he's riding around at the Ohio State with a Rolls Royce, is what I've been told.
Wow. Well,
I
said,
where does this end? Where does this end?
That's right. It doesn't. It doesn't.
Like I said, I came along too early.
Yes, you did, Thom.
That's $9.5 million, 15 million, whatever. That's a long way from $15 a month. All we could do with that $15 was go to the goalpost and get a hamburger and some French fries and get our clothes washed.
Possibly a milkshake every now and then.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Hey, Thom, I'm gonna have to tell you, like I told another alumni from Auburn. I was giving a speech, and she said, "I used to date Albie." I said, "Don't tell anybody that." So Thom, don't tell anybody you got $15. Let's just let it go.
Thom, I bet
it's public record, man. It's public record.
Hey, Thom, you can buy a lot at Santa Freeze with $15, though.
Yeah, you could. Now, Santa Freeze is great. Santa Flush, we used to call it. It was great. Santa Flush. Yeah, you get French fries. French fries are like 15 cents, and that was a different time.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Anything else from you guys?
I just want to mention one more thing, Thom. I want to congratulate my niece, beautiful niece, Aaliyah, and her husband, Darren. I attended their wedding in Powder Springs, Georgia, this weekend, and it was an absolutely beautiful ceremony, and I wish them all the best in their long life together.
Oh, good deal. Good deal. All right. So let's go to Sean and got a minute. Sean, you got a minute for us?
Good morning. My name is Sean Jones, and this is Got a Minute. Hello to everyone joining in with us this morning. I hope you all are well and in great spirits this week as we've started to close out the month of June. Now let's get into it. Here are some rather random but fun facts for you. Number 1, 3 presidents, all founding fathers, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and James Monroe, all died on July 4th. Coincidence? Number 2, did you know that Barbie, yes, the Barbie doll, her full name is Barbara Millicent Roberts? Number 3, there aren't actually 57 varieties of Heinz ketchup, and really, there never were. Company founder H.J. Heinz thought his product should have a number, and he liked the number 57. And here's a hint. On the glass bottle, hit the bottle on the number 57 and not the bottom of the bottle to get the ketchup to flow. I think I might have to test that one out. Number 4, experiments in universities have actually been carried out to figure out how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop, with both a machine and human lickers used for this experiment, because let's just face it, this is very important scientific knowledge. The results range from 252 to 411. Number 5, and I think this is absolutely one of my favorites. Did you know that it is impossible to hum while holding your nose? Don't believe me? I dare you to try it. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Sean Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
I think I can hum with holding my nose. All right. Thank you, Sean. We appreciate that. Good job. Okay, well, let's go to the G list. Hollywood has the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Thom, we have the G list. Our G list guests for today are George Smith and Vernell Barnes. They are historic brothers from the very first line of Omega Psi Phi on the campus of Auburn University. I've been knowing both of these men for many, many years. We share a similar story when it comes to our college experiences. And one of the things about Auburn has this creed, and in that creed, there's one line that says that we have a spirit that is not afraid. And I think if you were at Auburn during those times, you had to have a spirit that was not afraid.
Right.
And so let's welcome George Smith and Vernell Barnes to the G list this morning. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Thom, it's interesting that I tried to hum and hold my nose. I thought I was doing a very good job.
I thought I could too. I don't know, but you know we can't doubt Sean now. She's on top of
Sean's
it.
the truth. Sean's the truth.
George, how are you this morning?
I am great, man. I am great. Every time I think about some of our experiences, Thom, I just crack up, man.
Which ones can we talk about now? Let me say, when you were on the side of the road that time on
see, now you're gonna bring up some real big.
But I ain't telling all now. I just said you were on the side of the road.
Well, yeah, my car had broke down. Thom came by. Before that, somebody else came by. It was the person I did not want to see. So
hey, I love that little car you had. What was that? What kind of car was that?
It was a 64 Ford Fairlane.
There you go. There you go.
I did not want it. I had went to the car dealership and I had picked out a Camaro, 1967 Camaro. It was hot. The car salesman says, "Let me talk to your parents. Bring them down here." So I'm ready, man. I'm thinking I'm gonna get this car. And the car dealer said, "Whatever you do not buy him this car." So he's in school. He needs to take his money. Man, I was so disappointed.
No, he didn't.
So my folks ended up giving me a 64 Ford Fairlane. You know what I did with that thing? We all had a little credit card and stuff. So I went down to J.C. Penney's, got my little credit card. I put chrome rims around it, wide tires on the back.
You did.
That $99 paint job, ice box white, and everybody called my car a racer. Every time I wanted to use it, I had to go and find the keys. Everybody on campus drove that car.
Well, it was kind of like that car Big O had, but yours is in better shape than the Big O's, because the Big O used to just leave the keys in his, and then whoever wanted to use it could just walk over to the door and get in it and take off. Yeah, it was. It was this. Vernell, good morning. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you all this morning?
We're
doing well.
Great. We're doing well. I'm going to just cut straight through and let Barbara and Michael ask whatever questions they want to ask, and I'll come back through it. One thing I said earlier, I do think that place in time when we were at Auburn University, you had to have a spirit that was not afraid. I think that's one thing about the creed. I agree with.
I agree 100%.
Yes, that's one of the lines of the creed that definitely applies to us.
Barbara, Michael, you got questions for the guys?
Yes, I'll let Barbara go first. I'll defer to her.
Well, I just want to say to you guys, congratulations to the Purple Smoke Gang. That was the line name for the charter line of the Sigma Delta chapter of Auburn University's Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And of course, I was there for the 50th celebration, and all of the charter line members came back for that celebration, of course, except the two that are now deceased. But I know, having worked at Auburn and having spearheaded the Black Alumni Weekend and trying to get alums to come back, how difficult that can be. how difficult of a time that you all guys have, or did you have a difficult time getting all the Charter Line members to come back? Many of them which had not been back at all since they left Auburn. So I know you all were really involved in getting them to come back. So how did you do that?
Well, I'll have to defer to Vernell because Vernell was really the point man on this.
Okay.
We all were, but Vernell put together his investigative abilities, and he found numbers for people. And after he talked to them and made contact, then I played the big dog. I came back and I threatened and I cajoled and I begged. And every time they had make up an excuse, I would say, excuses are monuments to nothingness. You better be there.
I love it.
I really didn't have that kind of problem. I think the one that I thought would be the problem would have been Norman, since he left Alabama and he came back to get his parents, and I don't think he'd been back since.
Wow.
So let me ask this question. Tell me about, because a lot of these guys I haven't seen. I saw the photo. Washington Carr. Tell me about Wash Carr.
Oh man, Wash is my partner, man. Wash went to the military. He was in the Navy.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Traveled all over the world.
Okay.
But we stayed in contact. I remember shortly after we got out of school, I was on Arkadelphia Road, and I hadn't seen Wash in about 2 years, and we stopped at that stop sign right there by the Popeyes on Arkadelphia Road before you get ready. And I saw this guy just, that funny laugh that Wash has. He just gets all excited. He's beating on the steering wheel. And I said, that's got to be Wash. So I blew my horn. He ignored me. I kept on laying on my horn. He turned around, and it was Wash. But Wash, he's still very active in the fraternity, so I see him at a lot of the national meetings. And I actually went to his daughter and my son, my youngest son, were pretty close. When we used to have anniversaries, we would have babysitters, so they would hang out together and try to sneak into the events and all that stuff. So I actually went to his daughter's wedding. So Wash is doing real well. He worked for a company called Bechtel, and interestingly enough, those places in like Anniston, I think they had one close to Austin, where they would destroy the chemical weapons. Well, Wash was responsible for the materials that they used to build those plants. So Wash is doing real well. He's now, believe it or not, he's right outside of Austin.
Okay.
He retired from Bechtel and he just moved to the Austin area.
Okay, cool.
Clifton Kirksey.
Oh, Cliff.
Cliff is in Chicago.
I ain't seen these guys in God Almighty.
Cliff was my financial advisor for about 10, 15 years.
Oh,
unfortunately, my fortunes were going in the wrong direction. Now, he has a very successful business, and some of the things he tried to get me to do, he referred me to some investments in a Century Fund, but now I wanted to go with Goldman Sachs. And at the time, Goldman Sachs just tanked out. And of course, I couldn't blame myself, so it was like, Cliff, what the heck have you done to me, man? But Cliff still comes to Birmingham, so we keep in pretty good shape.
Okay, man, I hadn't heard it. We talked about Jimmy Knight and Wolfgang, we used to call him.
Wolfgang?
Yeah, we used to call him Wolfgang. Down in the lounge, and when he would come down, with that, hey, MF,
Well, it's interesting, Thom, when I called Jimmy Knight and I said, Jimmy, this is George Smith. He said, George Smith? I don't know any George Smith. And then he said, but I do know international. And I got to laugh and I'm thinking about it. You gave me that name.
Thom gave you that name?
Thom
gave
Oh, man. We all had names.
I thought Thom gave you the name of Pimpin' Rock.
I'm trying not to go there now.
Well, he had seven
All the
names.
truth comes out right now.
Hey,
Come
He had
on,
George.
seven
guys.
names
So
for
let
me.
me say this: George was a co-op, and so that means he had money when we were on the quarter system. So the quarter he would be in school, he had money because he had worked the quarter before. So George went up to Radio Shack and bought a really nice stereo system. Realistic was what they sold.
Right.
And boy, we could go over to George's apartment and listen to music, you know, because none of us had anything. So it was just great. And
We'd have a party, and they use my stereo, and I'd be ready to go home. They said, "Well, we'll see you tomorrow. We'll bring it to you."
You did, man. You did. So,
but Don Williams,
Don Williams.
Don Williams was the person that came up with the Purple Smoke game.
Did he? Okay.
And you can imagine what he was talking about.
Yeah. Well, how that goes. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. I think we all can look back at that and think about how we got to that situation, how we tried to make the best of it. And I think you were there, George, that when we marched on the president's office, and which a direct result was the Qs came out of that, because they brought on DC, and I think you guys come the next spring?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was we did some good things. President Philpott he did some good things for us.
And we have varying opinions on that.
Yeah. Well, we had to grin and bear it, I guess. Michael Barber, you got a question?
Yes, I'd like to jump in here for a minute. I got a couple questions for both Vernell and George. And Vernell, I'd like to start with you by saying, first of all, congratulations on being the first African-American to graduate from Auburn with a bachelor's in architect. That's
Thank you.
Monumental.
That's wonderful. It is.
And then secondly, not only did you you didn't stop there, you went forward and you became the first in Mississippi to get licensed as an architect. First African-American in Mississippi.
Yes, that's
so
correct.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you, sir.
To piggyback off of that, I want to ask you, in your professional career, what was the most meaningful architecture project that you participated in?
Well, the one that I like the most is the office building for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference on Auburn Avenue in Atlanta. And I've got a couple of projects in Mississippi. There's Johnson Hall at Jackson State. The interiors for that was my contribution. And Johnson Hall, the original building, was built in the 50s. And it was for the art program. And one of the professors there, who went on to run his practice in Chicago, who's done numerous murals at hospitals in Chicago and New York, had actually done the mural in the original building for Johnson Hall. And I walked into the building. I thought, oh, great, this is good. We can reuse this. And which we had to make a copy, because unfortunately the mural in the original building was done on plaster on clay tile, and there was just no way we were going to be able to save it. But we did get it photographed, and there was a company in Florida that reproduced it. It was at a much smaller scale, but it is on the first floor in that building right now. And it evokes several scenes of African Americans throughout the state of Mississippi. So that I was happy with, and done a few things at Mississippi Valley State, and currently Alcorn State is one of my consistent clients right now.
And to piggyback off of that, I know, Mike, you have other questions, but Vernell, you're talking about all the different colleges that you've done work with. What about Auburn University? Have you had an opportunity to do any architectural designs or work there at Auburn?
I have not. I have attempted to, and just sort of like, well, we'll keep you in mind.
Hmm.
Well, and
But
I can
you know,
testify to that as well because I've tried to assist Vernell in getting some work at the university. And as he said, it for some reason it just wouldn't work. And one individual in particular, I won't mention names, but just seemed to be dead set against it and wouldn't budge. And I mean,
Mhm.
even as far as, I had a little bit of, I knew my way around the university, let me put
Right,
it that way. And
right,
I just asked the guy, I said, well, could you just talk with him on the phone
right.
and just see if in fact that would work? And I think Michael and I have this conversation, but that's one of the last things that needs to change in
Yes,
terms of our economy, in terms of how money flows, in terms of what Auburn is an economic engine. It says they brag that it's the economic engine of the
hmm,
Southeast Alabama, and it is.
right, right.
Um, it could do a lot more if it sought out some of its qualified minorities, and so I didn't mean to take that away, Vernell, but I just wanted to pitch in because I've tried to. We I know he's been trying because I've been trying to help him, and it
Right.
just
And that's something I think we definitely need to focus on, and the university needs to focus on in the future. So maybe we can find a way to bring that back up.
yeah.
Well, I think
sure.
we have an opportunity with a new president, so let's try and reset and move forward.
Yes,
And
If
I
I
don't
can,
think you're asking. Excuse me, Michael, before you go, but I don't think you're asking for anything out of the ordinary.
I
I don't think
agree.
it's there are a lot of businesses that do businesses with their respective universities.
Yes,
And so this isn't a gimme. This is, hey, let's involve.
right.
And
If
I
you look
know,
at some of the larger contracts that Auburn University have with different companies and vendors right now, a lot of them do have Auburn degrees, and so they're doing business with alums. So there's certainly no question about whether they should or not, or that they are. It's just maybe that certain groups of alumni are not
and
getting.
above all, he's qualified.
that's what
Absolutely,
I
he's
was
He's
going to
most
say.
done
definitely
business.
qualified.
He's done business at colleges and universities.
Right,
Right,
right.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. Okay,
well,
I
we'll
want
work on that. We'll
Yes.
absolutely,
continue to work
Well,
on it.
absolutely. George, want to move over to you. Your professional career. You've been an operation manager. You've ran operations for Bell South or South Central Bell, whichever one name they went by at the time you started. And then you went to EDS as manager of information technology. My question for you is, what was the most challenging about that? And then after that, based on your professional career, what do you see on the horizon when it comes to operations with companies? Because after COVID, businesses seem like they forgot how to run. Maybe you need to come out of retirement and get back into operations and start being a consultant or something to get things moving.
Mike, we may have to talk about that offline. I believe you might be able to help me with that. But it was interesting. I left Auburn in industrial management. My goal was to be the plant manager at U.S. Steel, which at the time was the largest.
Right.
It was the largest employer in the state of Alabama. And interestingly, by the time I graduated, U.S. Steel closed. And so I went to Stockland Barrels and Fitting, which was not very good. At that point,
No.
I left and decided that manufacturing may not be the best thing for me. So I co-op with Bell South. So I was able to go in and talk to the guy who was my manager at the time. And he got me on it at Bell South. I started off in the data center. And I must admit, I excelled without, we don't even have time to talk about all the obstacles of being a black coming in getting in that leadership role. But I went through South Central Bell, on to Bell South, still same company, still doing the same work. And then EDS came in, and Bell South outsourced their work to EDS. So basically, I was in the same seat, had the same 300 people working for me, just a paycheck with a different name on it. The interesting thing, though, EDS's whole role is to come in, man the knowledge, and then start laying people off.
Mhm.
So most challenging thing for me was we were doing the job. I thought we were doing a great job, and every month they would come in and ask us to rank our people, and then to take off the 10%, the bottom 10%.
Wow.
Well, after a while, the top 25%, some of the people in the top 25% now became people in the bottom 10%.
Right.
So, it was very challenging. So one of the things I told them is I didn't have anybody else to lay off. And they told me that if you can't lay them off, your replacement can.
Oh, wow.
So basically what I said was, you're giving away all these severance packages. Why don't you give me one too?
Mhm.
Because, that was very challenging for people that I knew were doing a great job.
Right.
That I had to turn around and get rid of. And it was interesting. People started taking their belongings and taking them home because they didn't want somebody come to their desk and they pick up their stuff and walk out of the door. So that's one of the things that Bell South had EDS to stop doing. Said, look, these were our people. Treat them like humans. So the interesting thing, that was challenging, but the next job I had after that, Michael, was very interesting. I was still heavily involved in Omega Psi Phi fraternity. So I knew the national president. So he said, I want you to bring some of your organizational skills, and I want you to evaluate the operations of Omega Psi Phi's headquarters. So I wrote up a plan and all of that. And then he said, well, I want you to implement it. And he said, I'll give you a 6 months contract. Well, 6 months ended up being 6 years. I started in 2006 and I left in 2011 at our 100th anniversary.
Wow.
But I thought that was pretty interesting. And on another thing I'd like to talk about is both Barbara, Vernell, and I were all on the National Alumni Board at Auburn.
Yeah.
Yes.
So interestingly enough, I used to call Barbara and get her to come to some of the meetings in Birmingham before I that on the board, because I was the only Black person there. So I would
Right.
call Barbara and say, listen, you got to come, get some more Black people to come to these meetings. They don't think that we got alumni in Birmingham that's Black. So I got on the board, and Thom, they wouldn't let me go. I took 3 years. I started 3 years to fulfilling somebody else's term on the National Alumni Board. You're supposed to have 4-year terms.
Right.
So they said, okay, you never did a real term. We're electing you for another term. So it was like 7 years on the board. I was like, please, no more, no boss. I got to go do something else. And at that point, Vernell came on. And then after Vernell, Barbara. So, I think we did what we could to try to improve Auburn.
Yes.
I think you guys did, and I appreciate it, because I know that, for a while it took me a while, and finally I realized, okay, this is mine too, and if I wanted to change, then I got to be part of the change, and
Right.
So that we took off from there. So I got a question, George, that somebody's put in the chat. And it's and I'm just gonna tell you who put it in the chat. It's my wife, and she says, "Hi, Mr. Smith. I love the story about you taking down the Confederate flag at the Auburn football game, and I have 2 questions. Do you still have the flag you took, and did you ever get in trouble for taking it?"
Well, no, I still have the flag. As a matter of fact, the brothers requested that I bring that flag to the 50th anniversary. So I brought it down and displayed it. And then, no, I never got in any trouble, because The only trouble we may have got in, we tried to take the second flag the next week.
Yeah.
And they put Auburn is so slick. Thom can remember now. When we took over the president's office, nothing ever showed up in the newspaper.
That's right. That's right.
When there was riots about the Old South Day, nothing ever showed up in the newspaper.
Right.
So nothing ever showed up about the flag. Nothing ever showed up about the second week when we tried to get the second flag. And they put a black security guard there, and he was telling us, please, I can't let you get this flag. I'll lose my job. So Auburn still to this day controls the media. But the interesting thing about that time, if you remember, when Philpott told us that he couldn't take the flag down, he said, you don't understand how much money that flag brings to Auburn.
Yeah.
So I said, well, we're gonna fly the red, black, and green. You know, I've got my chest flipped out. He said, you can put it up. I can't guarantee you how long it'll stay.
Oh man, that was I'll never forget it. I mean, we were sitting down in the lounge and we were having one of those discussions, and it kept going and it escalated, and finally somebody said, well, let's just go talk to the president. So we took off for the president's office, and it was interesting. Of course, we got in trouble with the football team and all that stuff, but
Philpott was out of town, remember?
Yeah, he was out of town until he
we
won.
pulled out a deck of cards and started playing.
That's right.
You were playing cards on the president's lawn?
No,
in the office.
On his office. Yeah. And the same office now. Same office now with the same table and all that. I remember the first time I was involved in a meeting in there, man, all I could think about was, man, this is where we marched on Philpott's office. And it was interesting. I think that there were some changes made after that.
They brought in DC. That was one.
Yeah, and that led to you guys getting the fraternity, and so
DC
was actually an employee at Auburn. Is that what he was doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
The first black employee, by the way. The first one, I'll take it back. The first one in administration.
Right.
Okay. Right. Wow.
So we had plenty of janitors and stuff.
You got in trouble with Suge?
Man, when Philpott walked, James and I were sitting in there. James is the other black football player. And when Philpott walked in there, his eyes went directly to us. And I knew by the time we could get back to the football field, and when we ran out on that field, Coach Jordan, as my daddy said, he begged for us. And he told us, come in. It's like, here we go. But they and the discussion was interesting because Coach Davis said, well, you guys can't do that kind of stuff. You Auburn football players. He said, well, Coach, we're also, black. And, these are our friends. And we don't have any other friends here. And so what are we supposed to do? And he finally said, well, y'all just go and practice. We'll talk about it later. And they kind of let it go, but it was, I don't know. It was an interesting, the thing I think that was so interesting is that half of the black students that were there, and I don't think it was more, they always said it was 200. I always said, well, they must have been hiding the other 100 because I didn't see it. But if it was 100, half of them were commuter students.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, there were just a few of us left on campus.
Right.
And it was very difficult to, if you wasn't going to Tuskegee, you didn't have a whole lot to do.
Right.
Yeah, you had to have a thick skin.
Very much so.
Very much so.
Well, I tell you one thing that Auburn did prepare me for in the corporate world.
Yes.
Is being the only one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because 95% of the classes that I took at Auburn, I was the only black in it.
Yeah.
And that was in what you came in 1970 and 1975. When I came, it wasn't any different. I would say probably 99% of my classes, I was the only black.
I told
at least
Joe
the first
Nathan,
3 years.
Joe Nathan and I ended up in English together. And I said, "Oh, Joe, you know one of us gonna get flunked, man. They got two. They gonna have to flunk one of us." and Joe failed the class. I said, "Well, Joe,
Wow.
see, I'm a football player, man. They got to look out for the football players." Oh man,
I tell you one thing.
We have several questions in the chat. First, my sister Lori wants to know, George, what are all those awards and certificates on your wall back there?
They are Omega and Auburn awards.
Okay.
I've got a couple for community service, and I was a president of a neighborhood association, several different neighborhoods in the city of Birmingham. I was actively involved in that. But if you listen to a lot of folks, I had Omega on the brain. So I held many offices within Auburn, and also within Omega Psi Phi fraternity. As a matter of fact, those years I actually ran the international headquarters for Auburn from 2006 to 2011, where all of the administrative stuff came through me, and I got a chance to travel all over the country and out of the country, actually representing Omega Psi Phi fraternity. So I'm very proud of that.
Yes.
So my wife calls it my museum. She says it's a memorial to myself.
Any other questions, George? Vernell, anything you guys want to bring up?
Tom, there's also
Laurie
a question.
wants to know why I didn't pledge Omega. Well, when they lined the guys up out there, and James and I were the two football players. We were the only two black players on the team at the time, and James was my protector, more or less, as far as athletics went. But anyway, we went out there, and there was a little guy out there who was just slapping people around, and Big O said, "Hell no, I ain't doing this." And so, I roll with the Big O. So,
I think the big issue there had been another line at Auburn before that.
Yeah.
The fact that these guys from Tuskegee came up that none of them knew. I knew a couple of them because they went to high school with me, so it was easier for me. But we always, I didn't mention this, but we always, once a lamp, always a lamp. So we called Thom and Big O and a couple of other athletes, we call them eternal lamps.
Eternal lamps.
And Thom, whenever you get ready, we welcome you back, brother.
I hear you. Well, I think for us, man, it was just great to have them. And then, of course, the other fraternities came along. But it was, we needed to spread ourselves as thick as we could because there were so few of us. And Tom,
I gotta talk about this though. Although it was the 14 of us, it was more like a community because Thom,
it was
all the other. They came to all our parties when we played intramurals. We played against some of the larger fraternities on campus. Well, Thom and all those people actually played with us as Omegas. Yes. And they got pissed off because most of the time we beat them. We had a basketball team with
we did.
That was called it was one of our frat brothers that came a couple of lines later. His name was Cunning Brown. They called them Brown's Clowns. They had Thom, and they had the fastest track player on the team.
That's
Thom,
right.
they had a big Too Tall McCall, who was a tight end for Auburn.
Right.
And nobody could beat us on the boards. And when we got a rebound, they just took out down the floor. Nobody could keep up with them. We were just killing them. We was beating them like 20, 30 points.
And we were great, man. And you're absolutely right. Well, we couldn't afford to be separated. Right. So if somebody was having a party, everybody went, right. And that was still only about 30 of us. So It was interesting. I think it's interesting that you guys came back and joined the Alumni Association and became leaders in the Alumni Association. I like I said, I know it took some of the guys, some of us, some time to reconcile what had happened to us there. And as you said, some of your guys who came back was the first time they had been back. We had a thing a couple of years ago where we had some of the first Black athletes. I think between 68 when Henry came and 74, we probably had about 25 Black athletes altogether. And I remember when we had the thing for James a couple of years ago, Gary Redding came back. Gary Redding was the most high at that time, other than Henry and James, most highly recruited athlete they'd had. And Gary came to major in engineering, and they told him he couldn't major in engineering because it was too hard. So he ended up in accounting. When he came back a couple of years ago, that was the first time he'd been back since he left.
Yes.
Several of the guys, it was the first time they'd been back since they left. And so we're trying now to get guys to come back, guys and ladies, because it was a different time, and it was a tough time. I'm not going to lie about it.
Well, one thing before we leave that subject, out of the 14 of us, I guess it was about 5 or 6 of them that graduated soon after. So those are the ones that really had a hard time coming back because of the bond that the ones that were there for 2 or 3 years. We actually built this closeness,
right? And
we had a second generation. Vernell's son, my son, and Harold Drain's son all came back to Auburn, and they all pledged Omega. So we had this legacy thing going on. But one of the things about the sitting at Philpott's office is that we became more involved. At least I did, because I got involved on the Student Government Association, and they actually gave me money to go out. I was over high school relations, so we actually had events where we brought in high school kids, and it was actually, because I was on the board, it was actually governed by the Omegas. We actually put on the events and planned it, and then brought high school students in, and some of them like Araminta and Vernell helped me with some more of the people that came to some of those events that ended up coming to Auburn.
Yeah, George, I can't really think about it. You caught me off guard with that one right now, so I have to think about that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, there were some, but you look at Auburn as a tortoise. It just takes forever for them to just make small incremental strides. I always looked at it as, you're here. It's okay that you're here. We're not going to bother you. So it was sort of a benign neglect almost.
Invisible.
You make it or you don't make it.
You were invisible.
Yes, you were.
Yeah, you were invisible.
So,
that's
George brings up the fact that our sons became Omegas at Auburn. But we've had some situations where we've got multiple sets of brothers who attended Auburn and became Omegas. And like right now, there is a set of twins that are down there. So, and that's, let's see, I guess Jock was late 80s, early 90s. So at that point is where that kind of started. You started seeing these brothers attend.
Okay.
I want to thank you guys for opening the doors for all of the other fraternities and sororities, Divine Nine at Auburn University. You all came in 1972. The Deltas came on campus in 1974. And so, as a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, I want to say thank you for opening those doors for all of us.
Oh, you're welcome. And even for the party that we gave for you guys.
Thank
First
you.
night.
And it was, I don't know. I think we made the best of it, and
Yes.
we all went there with the intention of making a difference, and I think we did that, and
Yes.
continue to do that. And so,
Well,
I'm proud of all you guys.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Vernell.
Yeah, I mean, for Sigma Delta, it was being a part of the community. The voter registration, picking people up to go to the polls to vote, food drives, even the that program where we had the little boy from Opelika. We wound up with, it was supposed to be one kid, wound up with all of his siblings as well.
And his parents.
And his parents.
Not counting parents.
Okay.
You know, it's okay. You know, you got a bunch of guys, you got 3 or 4 little boys. It's okay. Except we wound up with the one girl in the household as well. So,
but we made a difference, and that's the most important thing.
Yes.
Well, we're gonna have to wrap up here. It's been great. I'm proud of you guys and everything that's been done and everything that will continue to be done. We've made some incredible strides, and so we will continue to do that. And it's all in the betterment of the university. And I think we're all proud of what we've done at the university and what we will continue to do. So let me close out from here. So my closing commentary for today, or as I see it, daily, that means every day for some of you, in the heat of the night, the television show is on television. In the heat of the night, I was fortunate enough to work on it for 6-7 years. Carroll O'Connor, people always ask me about Carroll O'Connor. Was he a nice man? He was great. And we called him Pops. And he was really good to me. So I know that the 4th of July is coming up. And so I know that Antley and Anthony and some of you guys are going to go to Covington, Georgia to celebrate, as you do every 4th of July. And you're going to probably go by Ted Marcus's office. And I appreciate that. I probably won't be there. For those of you who don't know, I am Ted Marcus. And but it's great to live on an infamy, I guess. That it was a great show. It's interesting. My wife will tell you, I'll get up in the morning and I'll go, because it comes on about 4 times a day. And so I'll look at the episodes that are on, see if I'm in any of those episodes, and say, oh man, I'm on 2 times today. But then I don't watch them because I've seen them so many times. So I hope you guys have a great time down there, and I will make it maybe next time. So and so that's how I see it on this June 28th of the year 2022, and that's our show for today. Let's thank the audience. We appreciate you. Let's thank Michael Barber. Thank our G-list guests, George and Vernell. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thank Emily Hedrick, the communicator, Sean Jones, the organizer and producer. Remember to enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.